Hello everybody, this is Mahadeva, the OG Thunder Wizard. How is everybody? All right, so I'm feeling a little better today than I have been. And it's because I have worked through some of the issues that I need to work through in terms of my reality, but also taking a step back and looking at where everything is going. And so today I want to talk to you about the transition to the Aquarian age, and I want to talk to you about the transition from Kali Yuga to Dvapara Yuga. And these two concepts aren't exactly aligned in terms of time, but they do overlap. These two things do overlap. So I want to talk to you about that. So in order to understand that, we have to understand astrology. I'm sure you've heard this. I've heard this ever since I was a kid. In fact, there was a song on the radio. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. It was very popular. I mean, if you were alive when I was alive, you heard it all the time. It was always playing on the radio. And so that was kind of the main hippie theme, is that, hey man, we're moving into the age of Aquarius. Love and understanding and equality and all of those good things. And if you're familiar with the yugas, so I'll write it down here, familiar with the yugas, which means era in Vedic astrology, you've probably heard of the term Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga means the age of darkness. And most people have an inaccurate understanding of how the yugas work. So there's many people who believe that we are in Kali Yuga right now. But actually the yugas go they don't go linear, they go in a circle. And so on one end of the circle is the lowest end, which is Kali Yuga, and at the other end of the circle is the highest end, which is Kali Yuga. And then there's Treta and Dvapara, Kali, Dvapara, Treta, and then Satya, which is truth. So there are some traditional teachers way back when who were in Kali Yuga who misunderstood the understanding of it, and they came up with a wrong estimation of when Kali Yuga ended, and they thought that the yugas were that they were just in a line, that you went from from the worst to the best, or from the best to the worst and then back to the best again. So in other words, after Kali Yuga, you don't automatically go to Satya Yuga. Nothing works like that. It's a cycle. So as it turns out, Kali Yuga, which was the deepest, darkest point of human existence, that was actually in the depths of what we now call the Dark Ages. And we came out of that right around the 1700s, when human beings started to once again start to look at science, start to look at classical philosophy, classical ways of thinking, and we started moving into where we are now. So now we are no longer in Kali Yuga, we are in what's called Dvapara Yuga. So I'm going to be talking to you about those two things, but first let's talk about the age of Aquarius. So the age of Aquarius, as I understand it, again, this is also controversial as well, the age of Aquarius, but by many people's understanding, the age of Aquarius happened right in 2012, the December of 2012, right around when everybody was talking about that, right at the Mayan calendar, where the Mayan calendar said that the world was coming to an end. And of course, people attributed that to meaning that there was going to be some cataclysm, some kind of biblical apocalypse. But as we've been talking about, what it really meant was an end to the world as we knew it. And again, it's good to understand what the word world means. World comes from an ancient Germanic contraction of two words, which is wer, which means man or human. We just call it human. Human, and auld, which means time. So the word world actually means human age. So a world, when we talk about the world we live in, we don't mean the physical world we live in. We mean a human constructed concept, a human constructed understanding. And what happened in 2012 is that the energetic world that human beings had been projecting, the reality that they had been creating, came to an end. Now, it's like changing of seasons. You know, there isn't one day when, it's freezing cold and you're in, 10 feet of snow, and then the next day it's 65 degrees and sunny. It doesn't happen like that. When you're shifting from one season to another, there's a gradual shift, and sometimes it's hot and cold and hot and cold. We've been experiencing that even here, whereas we're heading into spring right now here in the southern hemisphere. We've had really hot days followed by cold days, by hot days, and then they start balancing out now that we're really starting to head into spring. And so this is what happens when we have these changes of timelines, when we have these changes of ages. So as we're moving into the age of Aquarius, there's going to be a shift. So even though it happened specifically, technically, I think it was December 21st, 2012, even though that's when we entered the Aquarian age, according to some astrologers, again, there's all kinds of controversy there. Even though that's when some people say that's when it officially happened, you didn't feel boom, you didn't feel it overnight. You shifted, you shifted, and then the season is going to start to shift. It's going to start to bounce back and forth until it gets comfortable and it's, and feeling like a new season. So the age of Pisces is where we've been, and the age of Pisces is actually the depth of the age of Pisces was actually the depth of Kali Yuga, the age of darkness. So when Kali Yuga and the age of Pisces was both in their deepest manifestation, that was when you had Christianity had taken over the European world. Indigenous religion in the European world was completely forgotten, and people worshipped a sociopathic, narcissistic tyrant of a god who, the spiritual understanding of the time was that you did not seek to enjoy your life, that your job was to carry your cross, to carry your burden, was to suffer. That was the spiritual lesson, was that you were here to suffer, and by suffering you gained glory in the next life. That you worshiped this God who ironically was full of pride for himself, and your job was to give him glory. You couldn't take any glory for yourself. People literally lived in their own filth. You had the lords who lived up above everything in castles, that owned all of the land, and if you happened to be on his land, you were his slave. And you lived in the fields, and you literally had to use your own feces to make the crops grow. And that's why people ate slop, because they would take the plants out of the ground, which was covered in human feces, and they had to boil it so that they could get all of the nasty bacteria out. And that's why, you know, when you see movies of people in the Middle Ages and they're eating slop out of a bowl, that's why. That was Kali Yuga. The depth of the times when it was dark and men were evil. If you read the Bible in Greek, in the original language that the New Testament was written, if you read the New Testament in Koine Greek, just for reading the Bible in Greek yourself without being a priest, they would string you up and peel your skin off. You couldn't, there was no freedom of thought. It was a horrible time to live for the average person. That was the depth of both the age of Pisces and the age of Kali Yuga. So the age of Pisces is the age of the fish, which is what is the symbol for Christianity. It's a fish. And that means that Christianity is the age of Pisces. That's the representation, the manifestation, the projection of that age. Is that age, the God that you worshiped was somebody who was strung up on a cross and was tortured, and all of the rage that the tyrant God had for his own creation, he threw on his innocent son, who died for nothing of his own. He didn't do anything to deserve it. He was punished unfairly for other people's supposed wrongdoings. This is the age of Pisces. The age of Pisces was the age of the elites. So this is where the elites were born. The elites were born during this age. And we can trace back the origin of the secret societies, if you choose to believe in that. We can trace them back to these times. And then in the 1700s, we moved into what is called Dvapara Yuga. If you want to look it up, you can. Dvapara Yuga. It is the age of, literally, it means the age of two ahead, which means, is another way of saying the third. Dvapara Yuga means two ahead. And so the defining aspect of Dvapara Yuga is in that first syllable. Dva, dua, duo, two. In fact, we spell the word two that way, T-W-O, tuwo, duwa. Dvapara Yuga means two ahead, but it is characterized by duality. And it is said that the Brahmins or the priests won't have knowledge of all four of the Vedas. Veda means wisdom, the writings. There are 4 different Vedas. It is said that during Dvapara Yuga, the priests will not have knowledge of all 4 Vedas. They will have knowledge of 2 of them. And what that means is that this is symbolic, meaning that people will be dually minded. You will have 2 political parties. So in the United States especially, we've only had 2 political parties. It's never been, we've tried to have 3 and it never works. There's just 2. There's conservative and there is liberal. And that's it. Those are your only 2 choices, whether you like it or not. And we are now seeing, because this has increased through time. It hasn't, democracy in the United States has not become more democratic. It has become more divided. In fact, people get so bent out of shape. I'll have people say, on my channel, they really get bent out of shape about it. They'll say, United States is not a democracy. It's a federal, whatever. So, people get bent out of shape over even the words democracy. Democracy meaning, everybody has a say. But people can't even agree on what that is. I was just talking with a friend of mine. As you know, there are things that I've been talking about on my other channel, which I can't talk about here. If you want to go, let's see, do I have that? Nope, that's not it. If you want to go to my other channel, you can go to odyssey.com and click around for Thunder Wizard, DOTCOM. And that I talk uncensored. On this channel, I have to censor what I say because, as you know, we live in a time of censorship. And there is no democracy anymore. And I've been talking with a friend of mine about my recent shift in my understanding about what's really happening in the world. And he is part of the narrative. He's part of the mainstream narrative. And literally when, as I'm talking with him, I'm coming to realize that he lives in a completely different universe. His universe is defined totally differently. In his universe, there is a thing called democracy. In his universe, there is a thing where there are actually two independent political parties, and that there is some kind of representation that he needs to focus on how to protect democracy from, he's got, and of course he buys into the whole mainstream narrative about the reptilian anointing. And there's just no talking to somebody like that. Doesn't matter, that what's ironic is that his initial interaction with me was that he was presenting himself as somebody who was, I follow science. And I follow science and I follow logic. And I said, well, here's some science for you, and I gave him some actual alternative science, if you will. And it, you could see that the sparks sort of flying out of his head, because the thing that people are struggling with right now, the real issue between, the so-called alt movement, and if there is such a thing, and the mainstream narrative. The difference is, in the mainstream narrative, people live in a universe where there is such a thing as governments and democracy and rule of law and freedom of speech and all of that. And once you see things for as they truly are, then you start to see that we live in Dvapara Yuga. We live in a time where there literally are two separate timelines, two separate universes that are lurching forward parallel to each other. But one of those timelines is going to come to an end, meaning that reality is going to be snuffed out, and there will be only one reality left. And that reality is going to be what we call the Aquarian age. So in order to understand the Aquarian age, we have to take a look at the star constellation or the sign of Aquarius. So Aquarius is a Saturn sign. It is the 11th sign in the zodiac. There are 12. And 11 is the, again, interesting, you have two pairs of one, so you have that duality going on. But 11 also represents infinity. And in the 11th sign, you have Saturn that has moved out of its 10th sign, which is Capricorn. Capricorn is represented by hard work, by karma, meaning that there's a direct, immediate response to your actions and your thoughts. And Saturn is all about hard work and accomplishing things little by little. So Saturn in Capricorn says, if you say to Saturn, we need to build a bridge, Saturn says, oh, okay, great. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go up into those mountains 1,000 miles away, and I'm going to start cutting all of the stones needed to build the supports for the bridge, and that should take about 20 years. And then once I've completely created all of those, then I'm going to have to haul those one at a time back to the riverbed, and then we're going to have to start cutting down the trees, and then we're going to, and then you're going, wait a minute, that's going to take hundreds of years. And Saturn says, yeah, I know. I'm going to make a bridge that's never, ever going to come down. It's going to be the strongest bridge that will last for millions of years. So I'm more than happy. I'm even rushing it by spending 200 years to build this bridge, but it has to be done right, and it has to be something that will last. This is Capricorn. Sign of Capricorn is that kind of dedication and hard work. Then, once you've paid off all of that karma, all of that debt, you've done all of that work for your soul, because what Saturn wants to do is work for the soul. So all of the work, all of the karma is about getting to the truth of the soul. Saturn is all about that. And Saturn doesn't care whether you like it or don't like it. When Saturn gives you your punishment, because you go asking for mercy, Saturn doesn't, it says, I don't know what to tell you. You have to pay this debt off. I remember probably 6 or 9 months ago, I don't know how, I got my channel got shut down for, I think, 3 months. I couldn't live stream for 3 months. And it was because one of my videos got taken off and I got a strike against me, and they said that I was guilty of harassment. And I was trying to figure out, what the heck are they talking about? It was anti-religion. I made a whole video against religion. And so I had some harsh words to say against religion, but I definitely was not, there was no individual I was focusing on. In any case, I was given an opportunity to appeal. So I appealed it, and I said, hey, I'd like for you to show me, because I don't know what you're talking about. Show me where I did that, because I don't remember doing it. I think that this is unwarranted, etc., etc. And literally within 5 minutes of making that appeal, my channel was shut down. It went from I had a warning to I couldn't live stream. I couldn't even upload videos. And then I contacted them and I said, what's going on? You said I could appeal. I appealed, and then I got shut down for appealing. And they said, oh no, we didn't shut you down for appealing. It's just that when you appealed it, then we looked at your video and saw that you had done 2 other things that we didn't like. And so instead of 1 strike, you got 3. That's Saturn in Capricorn. Saturn says, look, if when Saturn gives you your karma, your punishment, what you have to pay off, the consequences of your thoughts and your actions, and you appeal it, Saturn's going to go, now that I think about it, the fact that you're even appealing, is a violation. And so that's going to add another 10 years to your sentence. So that time is over when you move into Aquarius. Of course, the ages are going backwards. We're going from Pisces to Aquarius. But in terms of the progression of the zodiac, once you get out of Capricorn, then you end up in the sign of Aquarius, where now you've paid off all of your karmic debt, and now you reap the rewards. It is during that time of Capricorn that the elites are brought down, because they will be held accountable. And in the sign of Aquarius, you have this freedom. You have this equality among the masses. Saturn also represents the masses. represents the average person who's doing the labor to keep society going. So when we get into the age of Aquarius, those people, because of all of their hard work, now are lifted up to the status of what used to be the elites, and the elites are brought down. So there will be, once we get deep into the age of Aquarius, there will be no elite system anymore. There won't be tyrants, there won't be kings, there won't even be, presidents that can make these kinds of executive orders that shelve democracy and, affect people's liberties. We won't have that anymore. That'll be gone. Each person will be responsible for themselves. Each person will have the ability to manifest and create their own reality like never before. And at the same time, you will cooperate with others. So it will be a society that is built on this combination of individuality and cooperation. It won't be one or the other. And this is what's happening if we were to talk about liberal versus conservative politics. This is the duality. On one side of it, you have capitalism and extreme freedom, freedom of speech, freedom to carry guns, freedom to smoke weed, freedom to do whatever the heck you want. Don't tell me what to do. And then on the other hand, you have the collective, which says, no, we all have to do this together. So we create this communist collective where there is no identity, and we need to make sure that there aren't people who are making more money than other people. And so this is what's happening in politics. On the one hand, you have, like I said, just freedom, gone berserk. And on the other hand, you have collectivism, where you don't have any freedom and your job is to serve the state, to serve the collective. The age of Aquarius is going to be an actual combination of those two that come together to help you experience prosperity, health, and happiness on a much greater level. So this is the age of Aquarius. And the age of Kali Yuga is over. We are now in Dvapara Yuga. And we are moving. We're moving from the deepest, darkest age of human beings, and we're moving now in a long arc all the way back to the apex. So if you think of it like a circle here, right? You get this circle. And on one end of the circle here is Kali Yuga, and on the other end of the circle here you have Satya Yuga. And in between you have Treta and Dvapara Yuga. So let's go the other way. So it goes in, let's say in this direction. So here is Satya Yuga, where in Satya Yuga, the age of truth, people don't even talk. There's no verbal communication. Everything is, there's this immediate automatic understanding between people. People understand each other. There's nothing's hidden. People are completely connected to nature, to energy, to each other, right? So that's over here in Satya Yuga. And then we go in this direction, and from Satya Yuga we start to descend and we go to Treta Yuga. So in Treta Yuga you have people who are you have people focusing on thought, whereas opposed to before it was just intention and feeling. Now people are in this idea of thought. And then you go to Dvapara Yuga, where people have to then create science. So they create science and technology in order to function. And then from there, it descends into complete darkness, which is Kali Yuga. Then, so that would be, so if let's say this is, am I doing this right? So this is Satya Yuga. We go through Treta, Dvapara, and then we're into Kali Yuga. Then reverses, but it's a circle, so it goes back the other way. Then it goes through Dvapara Yuga, then Treta Yuga, and then back to Sakya, and then it keeps going like that. Got it? So we came out of here, which would be Kali Yuga. That ended in the 1700s, and then we're now in Dvapara, right? Duality. So it's been building like that. So we really didn't feel Dvapara Yuga kick in until around 1900, where you saw automobiles, airplanes, right? That's when technology really kicked in. And it had to do with energy. So burning of fossil fuels, electricity, all of that is Dvapara Yuga, which is about science and technology. And in that state, as I said, you're in this duality of thinking. So what you're experiencing right now is we're still pretty close to the age of Kali Yuga that has ended. And so just like as whenever any age ends, you still have, like I said, winter doesn't go to spring immediately. You go from winter and the first day of spring, you might have a snowstorm the next day. And then it'll clear up, and then it'll be 70 degrees, and then it'll bounce back and forth. So what you're seeing now in this age of duality is you're seeing the last gasp of the end vibrations of Kali Yuga, the end vibrations of the Piscean era, where there was just the rich and the poor. You're seeing the last gasp of that. And when we look at the Looking Glass project, assuming that's even true, again, I have no idea if that's true or not. It's a very interesting subject. Where there's a technology that is used by the deep state military intelligence, which of course is run by the elites. And what we find is at 2012, as the elites are trying to look forward in the future to see how they can manipulate the timelines to keep their power, when they hit 2012, everything comes to a halt. And there's some apparent, according to these quote whistleblowers, there is some event that happens sometime after 2012 that is a complete game changer, where it becomes completely transparent to the whole world, the lies that have been going on. Like, if you, like me, I just recently had this awakening, but if you, like me, can see objectively without being wrapped up in nonsensical fear that in actuality there is no government, the idea that there's been a government, that there's been democracy, that what we think is as a representative government where you have rights and you're all of that, and you come to realize that's never been the case. There's no such thing. That both political parties have been used by the elites to manipulate people in order to control them through fear. And when you come to realize that, the whole world changes. Your where-old completely shifts. And there is no reality the way that you thought. This is where we're at. So, it is my feeling now that I've had this traumatic awakening, and some people have been contacting me and say it's about time, and I agree. But I'm also glad, because as I said in previous videos, if I had started coming out, if I had woken up earlier, I would have completely lost my YouTube channel. I'm sure I would have been shut down by now. So because I woke up so late, when the media blackout and the censorship started and was so thick, I've been smart about it. Anyway, so what we need to do in order to survive this transition, there is only one way out, and that is to operate directly from the soul. So I want to make some suggestions to you. First and foremost, you need to go and watch my videos about the shamanic secret commandment to a perfect life. You need to go watch those videos on my channel. It's a book. You can buy the book and read it. I don't care if you get the book or watch the free videos. It doesn't matter to me. But what is important is that you understand that concept. If you understand what is in that book, you will understand the most important thing that we all need to know. And that is, let me again tell you very briefly what that is. We have incarnated. We have chosen to incarnate. So first and foremost, you got to drop any belief system that says that you were forced to incarnate and that this is a prison, that you have not chosen to be here. That is a lie. That is a lie told to you so that you can be manipulated by your fear. You chose to be here. And this won't work if you don't take full responsibility for your choice to incarnate. I'm sorry if things have been challenging for you. Things have been very challenging for me. Maybe they've been worse for you. I certainly haven't, I haven't had the worst. Some people have had it a lot worse than me. But I do understand how painful and difficult and challenging human life can be. But if you do not take full responsibility for the fact that you chose to incarnate, you will not make the transition. You will not survive. So that's first. Even if you're not ready to say that, even if you can't bring yourself to say that, become willing to be willing to say that. If you're not willing to take full responsibility, become willing to be willing. And now that you've accepted that, hopefully, the two reasons you incarnated, number one is you came here because your soul wanted to experience the joys that can be experienced in three-dimensional reality. You will have a very specific joy. And it has nothing to do with accomplishing anything or making money or being a good person or being righteous or being spiritual. It has nothing to do with anything like that. Your soul doesn't care about that. Your soul simply wants to have fun, whatever that is for you. For me, fun is right now living where I'm living. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to make some changes about that, at least in the immediate future. But for me, the most spiritual thing I can do to keep my soul happy is to live in rainforest on the edge of beautiful ocean where I can walk empty beaches for miles and surf by myself. And that's what my soul came here to do. And if I don't do that, I will be disobeying the one spiritual command that has been given to me. And you have one as well. There's only one command. And that command is to live for your soul. The second reason that you chose to incarnate was so that you would overcome whatever karmic blocks you have to living for your soul. So those blocks will have been created in previous lifetimes when you did not listen to your soul. So anybody, negative karma is only one thing. It has nothing to do with being bad or being wrong or being mistaken or about harming others. It has nothing to do with any of that. Sinning, nothing whatsoever to do with that. Karma is one thing and one thing only. When you took actions that went contrary to your living your soul's deepest joy, you caused damage to your soul. And people only choose against their soul when they want to be accepted by the world. So when you chose in a previous life not to be a ballerina and instead to be a bricklayer because your dad was a bricklayer and he told you, you can't be a ballerina, you have to be a bricklayer or you're no son of mine. And you said, okay, Dad, I'll do what you want. I have to be a good person. Oh, I should have kids too. I should get married and have a couple of kids. And then you became an alcoholic later in life and you were miserable and you were angry. All of those actions that you took that were negative, that may have been harmful to other people, that may have been unspiritual, that may have been immoral, that all of that was a result of the choice that you made to make your dad happy in a previous life instead of making yourself happy. And when you did that, you created karma. That's one example. That karma then comes over into the next life. So you choose to incarnate into a next life, and this time you have an even stronger desire to become a ballerina, but you have this karma associated from walking away from your soul's joy in a previous life, and you will have that same scenario come up again, maybe in a different way, and you will be forced to make a choice between what your soul wants you to do and what you have to do to be loved, to be accepted, to make money, to feel safe, to whatever it is. And when you choose your soul instead of that, you are then burning off karma. It will be challenging, it will be painful. What is happening right now in the world is that this is happening on a worldwide scale. Individuals and entire populations and cultures are being forced into choosing between themselves and making the government happy, literally. It's between the government telling you, you have to do this or you won't be allowed to survive. And if you choose not to do that, then you're going to have to, you might lose your job, you might lose your marriage, you might lose your family, you might lose, everything. You might lose everything. Some people, in some situations, choosing to do what makes them happy and protect themselves, follow their soul, may result in them losing everything. So this is really heating up. But those are the two things. You came here to follow your soul's joy and simultaneously to overcome the karmic lessons and pressures associated with trying to be loved and accepted by the world. Those are the two choices that you have. And when, I was talking earlier about a friend of mine who I believe literally in his mind lives in a completely different reality. He can't even comprehend the reality that I'm trying to show him exists. He can't comprehend it. Because for him to accept the full ramifications of everything that I'm showing him, he has to let go of the idea that Uncle Joe has his best interest at heart, that there's this system of politics and that there's this system of society and people and culture that's there to protect your rights and to that you can sort of fall back on, that you have this support system. And so when people come to the realization of what really is going on, it's very frightening because you realize you have nothing, you have nobody, and it's just you floating around in this universe all by yourself. And we're in a situation with the pandemic, with the lockdowns and the quarantines, and even literally going outside and wearing a mask, you are isolated. You cannot interact. There's a blackout on communication. You can't communicate on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You can't honestly communicate because if you do, you'll get shut down. So you're forced to isolate. And this is the lesson here is that you have to either choose to be part of the collective, or you have to to learn how to be by yourself, self-empowered, and connect to the infinite. Those are the only two choices you have right now. You can be self-empowered and connect to the infinite, or you can discount your own internal power and feel the love and the connection of the collective. Those are your two choices. All right, so in order to overcome this, we've got to focus on our heart. And our heart is our soul. And so the first thing I want you to do is to read that book or to watch those videos about the shamanic secret commandment to the perfect life. And I want you to be able to go through that process of asking yourself what it is that your soul wants. Most people don't know. And I give you a very specific outline, very specific questions that you ask yourself in order to figure that out. And then the next thing that I recommend that you do is whatever spiritual practice that will give you a direct connection to your soul. I offer to you the ones that work for me. The Warrior 90-Day Challenge is the one that I can make available to people, as many people as possible. If you don't want to do that, I've given you a link on my channel. I'll give it to you again right now, which is, if you don't have the means to subscribe or you don't have the means to work with me directly, then I'm going to give you free multiple spiritual practices that will give you the ability to do what I just described. Okay, so sorry, I have to find the video here, and it's difficult for me to do more than one thing at a time because I'm a typical man. But let's take a look here. This is a video that I made not too long ago. You should see it here coming up here pretty quick. Where is it? No. Okay, I need to look at the live one. Thank you. Okay, let's see. It should come up here pretty quick, and then I'll give you the link to that. Where is it? Nope. Although that's a good one too. Okay, so here's the link to that. Okay, here's the link to that. If you don't want to do the or if you want to test it out before committing to it, before doing the 90-day challenge or doing the Maoshan, you can go to that video link and do those free practices, multiple practices. But listen, as much as I want to just focus on the paid services here, it really is true. I'm only interested in helping as many people as possible, because this is absolutely crucial. In order for us to survive this shift, the only way out is to absolutely 100% commit to the path of following your soul. I'm not the only game in town. You want to go do some other practice? I don't care what it is. I only want to see as many people as possible be able to escape where things are going. I'll open it up for questions in a second, but I'm talking about the Looking Glass project, even though I don't know if it's true or not, because I believe in the idea of it, which is that we have already passed the Aquarian age landmark. We have already passed the time when there was a possibility where the elites could manipulate the timelines so that they could stay in power. The elites are going to fall. We're already starting to see it. There are so many people under the surface that are not part of the mainstream narrative, that are fighting against the mainstream narrative, that the pressure is starting to build. It's getting to the point where I can already see in the mainstream media that they're starting to slowly backpedal, which means that they know they've lost. And what's going to happen now, they've done their big push where they tried to legislate your obedience to the collective. They've already, there's nothing left that they can do. They've played their final hand. It's not working. They're going to start backpedaling, and pretty soon you're going to see more and more reality brought to the surface. There might still be some intense things that are going to come. I don't wish any negativity on anybody, but there might be some intense things that may be coming. I don't know that for a fact. That's just my feeling. More protests and more activism against the narrative. And what is going to happen is that the elites are going to lose. They're going to lose their hold over the masses. And I believe that that is coming soon. So having said that, I'm now happy to go ahead and take any questions. This is a question and answer, so if you're new to my channel, what I want from you is I want for you to ask a question or to share an honest feeling. The rest of it to me is noise, and I tend to get bogged down in flame wars with people who just dump their opinions. So if you want to avoid that, write the word question in all caps and then ask your honest question or share an honest feeling. An honest feeling is not, I feel that Jesus is Lord. That's not a feeling. A feeling is, I'm afraid, I'm angry, I'm confused. That's a feeling. An honest feeling is, Mahadeva, I hate your guts that you won't read my comment. That's an honest feeling. An honest feeling is not honest feeling. Mahadeva, I think that you're stupid and you should listen to what I say. Right? Got the difference there? All right, so let's take a look and see if there's any questions here. Again, I don't care who you are. You've been with me for 1,000 years or your first time. You dump an opinion, you're putting a target on your forehead. I may come after you. What else? I don't see. Absalom, question. Are the karmic consequences of one's actions different for people born with disabilities, bad circumstances, and lack of guidance, bad parent? I don't understand the question. What are you asking me? Karmic consequences are karmic consequences. And karma is nothing more than the result of your actions. That's it. Karma means action. That's it. Doesn't mean anything else. There's no such thing as good or bad karma. It's just literally the result of the actions that you've taken. So everybody's born with some karmic limitations. My karmic limitations are not physical. I'm lucky in that way. I've had a lot of karmic limitations in other ways. So somebody born with physical limitations, first off, I don't know if that's their choice, meaning that before they were born, their soul said, I really want to, for instance, let me give you an example of, I've shared this before, but Stephen Hawking, right? Probably the greatest scientific mind of our age, passed away not too long ago. He had ALS. Now, most people with ALS die very quickly. Once you get the diagnosis, you've got a few years to live if you're lucky. He lived for decades. And as you know, he was incapable of doing anything. He couldn't speak. So the only thing he had left was his mind. So the thing about ALS is that your mind is fully functional. It's not connected to the nerves and tissues of the body, so you can't do anything. You just sit there and lie there, and that's about it. But you have your brain is completely functional, and you have a total interaction with reality. And so one of the greatest scientific minds of the history of the world was somebody who their soul chose to say, I want to just live in the mind, and I want to be the greatest scientist, mathematician I can be, and that means I want to just be so can you imagine? He was just in his mind able to do his equations and everything in his mind. So I would say that his soul chose to do that. Should I feel sorry for him? He might not have achieved what he had achieved if he didn't have those physical limitations. So the assumption behind your question is that people who are born with disabilities and negative circumstances, that's number one, that's a bad thing, just because it's challenging. And number two, that they did something wrong, which is the narrative. But I'm telling you, that's not how it works. You made choices in previous lifetimes to either follow your soul or walk away from your soul. And every time you walk away from your soul, you create karma, which means that you're going to have to experience and pay back the lack of balance that created within you. Forget about everybody else. Within you, it created an imbalance, and you have to pay for that. You have to balance that out. So I think you're making some superficial conclusions here about people born with disabilities or bad. What is a bad circumstance? What does that mean? I grew up in a very affluent neighborhood, but I guarantee you would not have wanted to live in my house. It was, once you got, everything looked great on the outside, but on the inside, things were horrible. So I grew up in good circumstances. See what I mean? I think that you're thinking, I would just suggest that you get out of that kind of limited thinking. And I don't know the point of the question. Are karmic consequences different for different people? There's something about it you're not telling me. You're not identifying how that relates to you. All right. Jedi Black Knight question: can the lightning mudra be done standing up? The lightning mudra. Yes, or should it only be done sitting down? I'm asking because the Patreon channel was unclear on this. You can do it both ways. If you want to know what he's talking about, there's a specific mudra, a very simple mudra. I could show you what it is right now, but it is the mudra that identifies these people, the Maoshan. The Maoshan Taoists were the original Taoist lineage. All other Taoist lineages are directly descended from them, and they were seen as the most powerful. In fact, they were held with not only high regard but great fear because of their power. And they have a mudra, which is just simply, mudras are, touching, having certain, these things. They had a mudra that was very simple, but it connects directly to the lightning center of the heart, and it starts to release that into the body. And it was the main mudra that was used for meditation or for connecting to the immortals. And that is taught here. You go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Challenge. You can learn that. That's what he's asking me about. So the answer to your question is it can be done both standing and sitting. Absalom, here's how things work. This is a question and answer. If you have an honest question, I will answer your question. But what we don't do is we don't go back and forth. Not interested in that. If you can discipline yourself to ask a question, and the more that you can apply it to yourself, your thoughts and your feelings, the better response you're going to get from me. All I saw was yeah, but. That's not a good way to interact with me. You're going to get a bad reaction from me if you talk that way. And again, I don't understand your question. Yeah, but a bad action because of an intellectual disability? It doesn't matter. A disability is a disability. So again, I don't know what you're asking me. Are you saying that there's a special kind of karma for people who have some kind of mental deficiency? It's not about any of that. It's not about any of that. Again, I don't know why you're asking. So it's hard for me to help you if I don't know why you're asking that question. Eric Stoop, question: how much of the environmental message is used by the elites to control us? What's behind that question? That's not really a question, is it? you have a feeling that there is something that the elites are doing to use the environmental message. So you haven't been honest. Are you somebody that doesn't believe in human-caused global warming and you want to use this question as an excuse to see if I agree with that? Or are you somebody who does believe in human-caused global warming? You know, be honest. You know, be honest. I'm going to have a negative reaction if I don't think you're being fully transparent. So I'll give you a chance to think it over. Instead of trying to ask this leading question, try again and see if you can get a better response from me. Question, Zeralath. Is there a pattern to the events of each age that are uniform, such as social changes halfway through? Again, I don't know what you're asking. Are you trying to predict when's going to happen where? And I don't have the answer to that question. Even if there is an answer to it, I don't have it. So, you know, I know, you know, if I've said something you don't know, that's how much more I know than you. Many people already know more than I do about this stuff. No more questions? Okay. So, I think it's really important to see this as an opportunity. It's very easy for us, and it has been for me for the past 6 weeks. This has been probably one of the toughest 6 weeks of my life. And I'm feeling much better because I'm starting to now give myself some distance on it, and I'm realizing that all of this pressure that's coming on everybody is actually pressure designed to push us in the direction of our spiritual empowerment. And so the great news is for people who make the decision not to knuckle under, when people choose to follow their soul, no matter what threats are brought to them, the promise of power and transformation and ascension and all of those things, awakening, enlightenment, awareness, the promise of that is extremely powerful. So with the amount of power that's being used to try and limit you, to isolate you, to demean you, devalue you, and control you, that same amount of power is pushing you to experience an expansion of power and awareness. But you have to make the decision. And, you know, I don't judge anybody for the decisions that they make. As you saw, it took me a long time to get where I was. And so I don't judge, you know, the people I'm talking to, my friends who I'm talking to, and who are willing to have that discussion. I don't judge them for being in whatever mindset they're in. Now I look at them and they look hypnotized to me. And one, you know, to his credit, one of my friends, when I start talking about, you know, here's the facts, let's follow the facts, which bring us to the reality that we are being controlled by a small group of the reptilian horde. If you don't know what that means, go on to my Odyssey channel so you know that's code word for something else. But the reptilian horde is ruling the world. The reptilian horde is actively and desperately seeking to take over all of the developed world governments, and their end goal is to have complete control over the population. And they're doing all kinds of other things I can't talk about on this channel. But that, I don't believe they're going to be successful. I don't believe it's going to work out the way they want. I think it's going to blow up in their face. I think their desperation shows that they know their time is over. Because we're hitting that Aquarian age, and they've seen it. They've looked into the looking glass and they've seen that their time is over. They think that there's a small chance that if they create an apocalypse, they believe that if they create an apocalypse that they can manage and control the remaining surviving people in the world to do their bidding. And the truth is that's why they're so desperate, because they see that the percentage of chance of them to pull it off is getting narrower and narrower, and so they're getting more and more desperate. So that's the good news. You're feeling isolated, you're feeling controlled, you're feeling hopeless. We're almost out. But the thing to do is to not knuckle under. You must defend your rights. You must defend them. And you must not let anybody coerce you into doing anything you do not feel comfortable doing. What else? Vincent.thunderwizard.com says hello, and he is one of my my astrologers that I've certified. You can go to his website, vincent.thunderwizard.com. And by the way, anybody else who's, if you go to astrology.thunderwizard.com, you will see a bunch of other certified rune readers, and if you go to runereadings.thunderwizard.com, and you'll see astrologers at astrology.thunderwizard.com. Any of you guys, if you want me to plug you and you catch one of these live streams, just say hello and give us your website and I will give it out. If you guys want to know how to get that, to have me advertise you, I think this is still good. You can go to lockdown.thunderwizard.com and you can become certified. In fact, I should probably have a moving special. So I'll figure out, I'll make a package of things. If you want to, you can put in the comments section of this video or another video what kind of things you'd like to see me put into a package, and then you can help me make my move. So if there's a bunch of stuff you want me to throw together and knock the price off, let me know and I'll look at creating a package for you. But in the meantime, I believe the lockdown package is still going. I could be wrong. Actually, let me double check that. All I have to do right now is just type it in and see if it is. Lockdown.thunderwizard.com. Let's see, is that still available or did I take that offline? Nope, that's still there. You can do that. Okay, is that it for me? That's it for me. No more questions. Nick says I'm a pillar of strength. I hope so. I hope that I'm able to be helpful and to be empowering to all of you because we need it. But yeah, stay strong. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Take care of yourselves, stay safe, and go to my other channel, to my other platform, odyssey.com, thunderwizard.com. I'm going to be uploading some thoughts about how to get through the reptilian anointing. All right, I'll give you some thoughts about that. All right, I'll see you guys later.